Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rock Your Reinvention, the show that gives you the tools and tips you need to rock your reinvention by meeting with women who have already been there, done that, and sharing all of their amazing tips. So we have a very special guest today coming to the show, Patty Killmer. Her and I go way back to our telecom days, and she has been on quite the journey the last few years. And I just cannot wait for her to share her amazing story and all that she's doing now in her new business. So with that, welcome to the show, Patty.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited you're here. I'm so glad we've kept in touch all these years.
Me too. It's amazing how it all comes around.
It really does. Yes. So I would love to just have you do a quick introduction to the audience and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Patty Killmer. I am a certified professional resume writer. I'm also an Army civilian and a retired telecom employee.
Yes.
So I was in telecom for 24 years. So that's how my journey started. So
yeah. Oh, and we're going to go back there and dig into that because, a 24-year career in telecom, that's amazing. A lot of people might look at that and go, oh, what a huge accomplishment. I mean, it is a huge accomplishment, but think that like, oh, it must have been so amazing to be there in that role for 24 years. But we know that there was at some point a moment where you said, okay, this isn't for me anymore. This isn't working for my life. So tell us a little bit about that moment when you knew you needed to reinvent.
Yes. So there was an opportunity a few years ago for this huge package and leave and, take advantage. And I didn't do that. I was like, no, there's more. I'm excited. I think there's more changes and more opportunities. Well, I think I misread that. So when I recognized it was time to leave was actually April 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. There were many reasons. One was we've never been through such a pandemic before, right? It's the first time I've been through one.
Yeah.
Everyone else, right? We're trying to navigate it. And my boss at the time did not feel the same way as I did. The level of empathy, compassion towards the employees, trying to figure it out. I mean, the reality is we had people who were trying to work full time, take care of children, teach their children, take care of parents, elderly parents, trying to navigate all that, sticking everybody in a house, and the level of compassion or empathy was not there from my boss. And I stuck through it longer because I had 18 direct reports at that time, and I felt like I was going to abandon them.
Oh.
So I did get to the point, though, that it was affecting my health. And it was time to go. So I said something to my husband about it, and we ran the numbers, and he was like, let's see what that looks like, right? Yeah. So I knew in April that I could leave. Like I could leave the company and like we were going to be fine, right? We already paid for college loans for 4 kids and we were going to be fine. I said nothing. And then it was the Friday after Memorial Day. I got a call from my boss who said at 7 p.m., I already gave, I would say, 70 plus hours by Friday night, right? And saying we had, an urgent something going on. And I said, it can wait until Monday. And he told me he didn't like my attitude. It was the first time in 24 years someone said they didn't like my attitude. And you know what? I probably had an attitude. And I sat down and my husband said, pull the trigger.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, so many things there. And I'll just kind of go backwards a little bit. But like there is a point where you become so toxic because you've just had it. You're so done. And I don't mean you specifically, but just in general. I mean, I had so much venom in my blood by the end that things would come out of my mouth. I would say things in a way, in a tone that was not characteristic of who I normally am. And people would call me on it. And I would be like, well, that's because, this place and this and that. And it was just like so much. It was overbearing. My whole personality had changed.
Yeah. So I was crying all the time.
Yeah.
I think I was holding it in so much because I didn't want it to overflow. So I was crying.
Yeah.
And feeling horribly anxious all the time. Anything would trip it, right? Anything.
Yes.
And the fact when I probably said it with a tone, right? I didn't want to call him a name. And I felt I also needed to get out because I did flourish in that environment at a time, right? I had I got my education. I refined my leadership skills. Like there was a lot of positive, and I needed to leave before that was, I wanted to leave while my reputation was still on the high. Put it that way.
Yeah, good for you. And I love that you were so smart and you ran the numbers. Because what I think a lot of women do is we're like, we want to leave, we think we want to leave, but then we have these stories that we tell ourselves. Well, then I won't have enough money and I can't leave and yada, yada, yada. I mean, I left with 2 boys in hockey. That's like the most expensive sport there is, and like we found a way to make things work. So when you run the numbers and you have the facts, you actually know what you can or cannot afford to do.
Right. And especially my husband was semi-retired as well.
Yeah.
So it was this rocky road of us being like this. When they say you're going 100 miles an hour, we were going 100 miles an hour. And there's a time when it needs to slow down, right?
Yeah.
And we were fearful of that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when we ran the numbers, we're working with the financial consultant and we were like, oh my gosh, why didn't we do this years ago? We're killing ourselves.
Yeah, for what? Yes.
There's many reasons. One, I don't want, I want to be financially independent in our senior years, but Oh my Lord, I was like, this is all I need to make.
I know. That is such a freeing number when you get that and you really understand what you need. I think most women would be shocked at when they could actually retire or they could stop working or make less, right?
Make less.
Yeah.
And then I took 6 months off really to heal, sleep. I took some classes and recognized that me not working was not healthy, right? I was spending money in creating projects. So I was like, okay, I'm very expensive. I need to go back to work.
Yes, in a different way, in a different capacity. And so that really brought you to your business, which I think is so beautiful now that you get to like still kind of keep your foot in the corporate world, but you can do it on your own terms. So what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur?
So I'm calling the shots, right? It gives me the opportunity to nurture or fine tune the skills that I do well, right? And it also gives me an opportunity to be plugged in to such a diverse client platform. So I work with people, I work with the kids trying to get internships in college, all the way up to executives going to the next level, right? From federal, from the private to the public sector, nursing, healthcare, pharmaceutical. I had the opportunity to work with all these people and learn what they are doing and what they're going through and what they're experiencing.
And I love what you're saying, because I think a lot of women go into business and they think I have to know it all. And you don't have to know it all. You just have to be willing to learn and able to trust yourself that you're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And it's having a little bit of being an investigator gets me through everything. Just keep asking the whys. Tell me more.
Yeah, write that down for those of you listening. Like, be an investigator. That is such a great tip.
One of the biggest skills too is negotiation, right? How to negotiate, how to drill down Once I've solidified those, it is much easier.
Oh, I like that. Thank you for sharing. So let's talk about fear a little bit, which you kind of mentioned. I mean, even in your intro, when you were telling us about having that like abandonment, that fear of leaving your team behind, right? But I think fear is something that holds a lot of women back from achieving their dreams and from making a change. Did you have any fears when you started your business? And if so, how did you overcome them?
So the fear, the biggest fear that I had, and I don't know if it's normal, not normal, was what happens if I have a customer and they're not satisfied? Like I was trying to prepare for that. And then I was like, you know what? If it happens, I'll deal with it then. So I just had that experience. Sometimes you're just not a fit, and you have to understand that that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, so I fired a client.
Oh my gosh. I think I have to do that too right now, and I'm dreading it. But tell me more.
Yeah. So no, the resume world changes almost quarterly, right?
Wow.
What do HR recruiters want? What are hiring managers looking for? What is ATS compliant, meaning application tracking system compliant versus graphics? What works, what doesn't work? So I can explain all of these things. I can coach, I can mentor. And if the client doesn't want that, that's okay. However, they're not going to succeed, right? And if I have a client that consistently saying, this is not what I want, this is not working, it's not their image, right?
Yep.
I can't help them define what that looks like. I let this person go, right? Saying, I'm sorry, I don't think we're a good fit, and I gave them their money back, and life went on.
Yeah, and life went on. Yes, exactly. It's not the end of the world.
Okay. It's okay.
You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've had in life coaching, because I want to help everybody. I want to change everybody's lives. But if they don't want to help themselves and they don't want to do the work, can't do anything about that.
And they have to do work. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Especially in the resume world, you need to help me help you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know their story. You can't possibly know all their accomplishments and the highlights and the things that they've been through. So yeah, you have to pull a lot of that out of them, I would imagine.
And it takes time.
Yeah.
The worst is, this job closes tonight. Can you do my resume? Oh. I can't do your resume. So, no, because that's my brand. It's my name on that document. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And I think for those listening that do have a business or thinking about going into business, this is really helpful guidance that you need to approach everything with an abundance mindset. Because if you have that scarcity mindset, you're going to hold on to that client. You're going to take the last minute job where you need to go and create something within 2 hours time, and it's not your best work. And then you actually are resenting that, bit of your job. You're resenting that work that you did. And that's not a good place to be. So, but you got to have that abundance mindset.
Yeah. And be very confident that it's okay. And don't get me wrong. When this started, it still took me a couple of days to finally get to that point, because you want to please that person. But once I came to the conclusion that this wasn't working, I felt better.
Yeah. Good for you. All right. So now you help high achieving professionals connect with their future employer by linking their past and present. So I really would love to know a little bit more about what that means and how you actually make that connection.
Yes. So when folks come to me, and it really doesn't matter if it's executive or even a college student, right? A lot of it is that discovery type of discussion. Tell me more about yourself. What are their work ethics? What do they want? What they don't want? There's many folks that will say, you know what? I don't know what I want for my next chapter. So I usually start with, you may not know what you want, but you definitely know what you don't want.
Yeah.
Tell me those things that you don't want. I don't want to commute 2.5 hours one way. I've done that. It's not pretty, right? I don't want to commute 2.5 hours, or I want a hybrid environment, or I don't want to be remote. A lot of people do not flourish in a remote environment. So we start there. What are their skills? What are their superpowers, I call them? Once we get to know each other, I can definitely then tie all that experience to what is current today. It is very hard for people who have 15, 20, 25 years experience, and they want to throw this all on a resume. And you can't, right? You have to look at what is the job description, what is the hiring manager looking for, take all that experience, and then skinny it down to make it relevant today. And what does that look like? So that's how I go about, linking their past to their future.
And I imagine that there's a little bit of tough love that comes in there into play with some of your clients, because I'm sure they want to share all the things they've done, all their accolades and awards and everything. And what do you do when you're just like, yeah, sorry, no, this doesn't belong here?
No, but that's true, right? Some of those things you should not put in your resume. The future employer does not care what type of sales awards that you got from this company, because their definition of the award may be totally different. However, don't just throw it away. Save it for the interview. The resume is to get you in the door.
Yes.
Right? The rest of the experience you can share during the interview process.
That's a good point, right? Like this is just to get you in the door, and then you're going to have plenty of time to talk about everything when you get into the interview.
Yes.
It's a great way to think about it.
Yeah. So especially if you are in sales, right? Or anything channel related, right? You can say, yes, in the past 5 years, I've received 3 awards for having the top, whatever that may look like, right? So you can definitely share that in the interview. I don't want people to think that you just dispose of all your experience. It's just that we got to get you in the door. So in having a 4-page resume is not going to get you there. The only time a 4-page resume is acceptable is federal, right? Depending on what type of federal job. If there's KSAs it's a component where they ask questions and your resume needs to match the question.
Oh, I haven't heard of that, but I haven't done a lot of federal, so that would
it's intense, right? Federal's intense. Or if you are a professor, right, and you have publications, dissertations, and that sort of thing. But on the average, us public servants are like no more than 2 pages, and that's even executive level.
Yeah. So, I bet that's like exploding some heads right now. Like, what do you mean I can only have 2 pages? Yeah, that's for all of us.
And it's like anything else. When they talk about the first half page of a newspaper, right? That top half. So the average recruiter, hiring manager takes less than 10 seconds to review your resume. So we have to make sure I can sell you in the top half of that resume.
Wow. So. That is a good tip. That is a good thing to know, I think, as if anyone is in the job market and you're putting a resume out there, you have 10 seconds to sell yourself.
10 seconds. Fast. Yes. And what I've done is created a network of hiring managers in different industries. And we get together maybe once a quarter. And I ask them, okay, what are you guys looking for now? What's the new trend? What's the buzzword? What words don't you want to hear anymore? Because that's another one.
Yeah.
I think spearheaded, they're done with that word, right? But those are things that I should know. I should know those things to better serve my clients.
So I think that really speaks volumes on 2 things. I mean, one, if you are working with a resume writer that isn't doing this type of practice, oh my gosh, stop and call Patty, because like clearly she's like really invested in her business and her craft, right? So that speaks volumes on you. And two, for anyone who is in business or starting a business and you're wondering, how am I going to stay on top of all these things? How do I get this knowledge? Create your own little mini group of people, of resources that you can go to and ask questions. Like, there's no rule against that. There's no rule against having a network of people that you go and get the information that you need to be successful.
Yes.
Yeah. Way to lead by example. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about some of the resume mistakes. For those who are in the market and are putting together their resume, what are some of the biggest mistakes specifically that you see women making right now?
One is having a job descriptive foundational resume. You will get nowhere with that. So, meaning they're talking about their responsibilities. Right? It's not quantitative. It's not accomplishment based.
Yes.
Right? So you need to show, especially, and this is a general statement, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Women are like, I support, I this, or they're big team work, team-based individuals. Sometimes we can't do that on a resume. We need to know exactly what have you been doing to move the needle. You can say, I'm actively engaged in a DEI workshop. Okay, that's fine, but what are you doing? Are you penning 3 memos to help educate people on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Like, what are you specifically doing? Are you hosting a workshop? And how many people? And what did you do to host? Did you, have IT or a special guest? Like, those things show the different types of level of engagement that you actually have.
Right.
It's, if you're in sales, like if you are a mortgage broker and you support an elite customer base, well, what does that mean? Elite. Right? Is it someone making a certain amount of money? We'll come to find out that's not the case, right? It's asset based. So it's an asset based customer, whatever that looks like, but I need to define that.
Yeah.
Right. The other one, another issue I see is they're so focused on titles. No, don't. If your name is not across the board, across the doorway, it's about money. Money includes benefits, and benefits include time off or whatever that is, right? Don't focus on titles. Focus on what can you bring to the table and what is the benefit package as a whole. So I know that's not resume based, but it is, because they're looking for jobs on Indeed or Monster or LinkedIn, and they're looking for title instead of what is actually the responsibilities of the role. Because as you and I know, being in corporate America, what I was doing did not reflect my title at all.
Right. So true. And titles aren't always created equal, right? So a director at one company might actually be a VP at another company, right?
Oh, exactly.
Or an individual contributor. I mean, I see a lot of these startups and they want people to come in as a marketing manager. And it was like everything I was doing as the director in my last role. And I'm like, what? Oh, like but if you're caught up in title, you would say, oh, well, no, I'm not going to go down to a marketing manager, when it's like, yeah, but if it's more money or the same money, whatever, and it gives you the responsibility or the experience you want, who cares? The titles don't mean anything.
Yeah, I say, please don't be focused on titles, because it like you said, not all titles are created equally.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think some people need to hear that, and they need to hear it from other than just me, because I talk about titles a lot and how, I chased them for many years. They didn't bring me fulfillment. They won't bring anyone else fulfillment.
I did the same.
So many people are like, I just want this title.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In understanding what transferable skills are, right? So I am living proof that I went from the public sector to the private sector. So my day job is I am an Army civilian and I am the exec. So here again is the title, executive assistant to the director, right? An executive assistant in this particular role is part strategy, part administration, right? And part chief of staff. So don't focus on the title. So this role is not as intensive as what I used to do, but it's still taking my skills that
yes.
right? And still using them every day. And it's not as stressful for me, but don't focus on titles.
Yeah, we don't need stress. We can do without that. So I love that you've been able to navigate all of that and run your business, do it on your terms, and have a day job that doesn't bring you a lot of stress. So if you're out there watching or listening to this, guess what? It's possible. You can actually have it all, and you can find a job that's less stressful and still make the money that you need to live an amazing life.
Yes, exactly.
So good. So before we let you go, because I know we have like maybe 5 or so minutes left, I would love to hear just one more thing on personal branding. From your perspective, why is it so important? Because I see a lot of women overlooking their personal brand.
Yeah, so I see that too. Your personal brand gives you that edge, right? It gives you that little bit of edge, shows how you are unique from others, right? Remember, your personal brand, you are your walking business card, right? So if you have your personal brand, that opens doors, not just for career opportunities, but just network opportunities, right? Like they can see what you already bring to the table.
Oh,
it's very important. Very important.
Yeah. And the way they're going to see that, right, is through LinkedIn because, and your resume, right? It's like those are kind of the primary avenues that people are going to get a glimpse into who you really are and to make a decision about whether they want to bring you onto the team.
Yes. And fine tune that, right? It's what your strengths are. I took years and years ago, I was in an executive leadership meeting, like a workshop. And it took 2 days to drill down to the one statement that I have as my brand that I use on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It took 2 days. So it's a journey. And ask, do you still think this fits me? Because you grow, you change. Does it still fit? Right.
Oh, that is a good point. And it's worth spending 2 days to get that statement down and get it right, because that's how you're going to attract the right people to your world.
Yes. So like my main superpower is I am a connector. So I listen and I'm like, oh, you can go over here. You would make a good partner over there or team member, and I am strategic by nature, so that's when people talk about strategy, you can learn strategic methodologies, but to be strategic by nature, there are some people out there that are just like naturals out there. So it's pulling these out, but having those people around you to say yes, or you are way off base. You have to have those courageous conversations.
Yes, courageous conversations is a great way to put it. So maybe you could give us one quick tip. They got to pay for the rest, but one quick tip that our viewers could use to help them stand out on LinkedIn.
Focus on what you can bring to anyone, your current employer, your future employer, your coworkers. What do you bring? Right? How do you help them? And that is a good way to say, I offer this, right? If you're in sales, right? I offer like solutions to help grow your business or grow your channel, right? It's showing those words, and those words are unique to your own, right? It's really important to show what do you bring to the table. You're not your job title, you're not your company. Yeah. You are who you are.
Yeah, and I see too many people doing that. Like their thing on their header on LinkedIn is just their title. Well, I can see that from below where you list out your job.
Exactly.
So give me that
That's prime real estate. Don't waste it on who's giving you your evaluation.
Right.
Yeah. It's an opportunity to shine.
That's a big tip. Thank you for sharing that. And while we're having you giving tips, if anybody is watching right now and they are thinking about making a change, but they just don't know how to get started, what would you tell them to do?
Yes.
Or what would you say to them, I guess maybe is a better way to put it.
Yeah. So I think I'm just going to tell you what I did, right? I just sat down and said, so like, I think I shared this, like, I want to write a book, right? I don't want someone else writing my book. I want to write the book. And how do I go about doing that? Right. And just identifying one of those items to get started. Like, I don't know how to write a book. I know how to write, but I don't know how to write a book. So start with one component of that task. Yep. Don't start with all 10, right? Start with one and start moving along, right? And find those people who are similar to you. So we have an organization here. I live right outside of Raleigh, and they meet one Saturday a month, and they talk about their writing and their journey. So connect with those that are doing the same thing, right? I think it's important to have that community or that tribe to help you. That's the one thing.
Yeah. And speaking of tribe, that's kind of what we've tried to create here in Successful Working Women Rocking Reinvention, right? Because we're all going through this at various stages, but we're all in the process of reinventing our lives. And so it's great to have other people to share the wins with and share the not so great moments with.
But it's on everything. So I'm on a health journey. And what was my first step? I went to a nutritionist, right? Yep. So, and it's step by step, and it is actually an evolving journey. And don't get stuck on one thing, because 3 weeks down, they're going to say, oh no, we should be trying that. You have to be adaptable too.
Oh, I love that. Such good advice. Where can people find you if they want to sign up for your services or get support on a resume package?
Sure. I'll be happy to share that. So I have a website. It's epicresumedesign.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you mention Rock Your Reinvention, we have a special little offer for all of you watching. But if you need support and you want Patty to come in and help you with your resume and help you with LinkedIn, she is going to give you a special discount between now and the end of June. So we're just going to we're rewarding action takers here, which I know a lot of you women are. Reach out to her by the end of June, mention Rock Your Reinvention, and you're going to get a special little discount just for watching and being a part of my world. So we hope that you will all take advantage of that. You have until June 30th to mention Rock Your Reinvention and get that special little bonus discount. For the rest of you, if you are interested in finding success without sacrifice, if you feel like you're burning the candle at both ends, I just want to remind you that applications for the next round of Success Without Sacrifice close on June 2nd. So you still have plenty of time to get in there and apply. And then I will be reviewing those applications and letting you know ASAP if you're in, so that we can take the next steps and get you officially enrolled. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me and we can talk about that program as well. I think that's it today. Patty, you have given us so much wisdom and so much knowledge. This has been amazing. Thank you for spending some time with us. And I hope everybody will take us up on that offer and reach out to you, because I know you can really help them get their career to the next level.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was great. Thank you.
Oh, this was such a pleasure. It's always fun chatting with you.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody.